What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Retro Hoop Collectibles. For somebody who hasn't done any submissions with BGS, the last couple of weeks have been pretty BGS heavy in terms of content. I say that, but I've only done like one other video. This would be the second one I've ever done on BGS. But I felt it was important enough to do because in last week's live stream, somebody mentioned that BGS would not be caught up for another 3 to 5 months, or 3 to 5 years. That it'll be 3 to 5 years before BGS gets caught up and has times that are going to go back to normal. So I just obviously from an operational standpoint, I thought to myself, well, that doesn't seem right at all, and if that's true, well, then that's just simply the end of BGS, right? There's just no way that a company can operate that way, and would come out with a statement like that is essentially going to bury them as a company. So I decided to do a little bit of research and figure out, like, well, okay, maybe something was said, somebody made an announcement as a company, and something happened, right, with that. So I began to do a little bit of research on figuring out what the real truth was behind that statement that came out. There's somebody posted in the live chat. So I did a little bit of digging, and I got some help from some folks. I think I posted on my Instagram. If anybody knows anything about this, please let me know, because I couldn't find anything. I was Googling, and I couldn't find where that statement was made, which led me to further believe that there probably that's not exactly what was said, and there was maybe some misconception as to what the statement was. So even though I still think BGS is probably like way behind in the curve in terms of putting out information as to what's going on with them, because even though we don't like the information that's coming out from from PSA, at least they're saying something, right? They're not as transparent as a HGA or as a SGC as to what's going on, but they're at least putting out something. So, I'll give them some credit for that. However, BGS just hasn't been saying or doing anything. And so that was kind of the reason why haven't done any videos on them. Number one, I don't use them at all. I've never used them. And number two, they're not saying anything. So I don't know what to say about them. However, aside from the last video that I did on BGS, which was just explaining why I don't talk about them, there's finally been some, other than the shutdown, there's finally some news as to what they're doing. But before I get into that, I did see a very a very interesting video. Let's see here.
From 14 months ago, just to say
that?
it again.
Yes, you can.
All right, we got, what the hell? Look, what the hell? Come on, BGS. You're going to make me wait 14 months? Down though, for real?
That's
BGS,
hilarious.
come on,
man. That
is
hilarious.
14 months and you're putting my cards upside down.
That's hilarious.
What are we doing here? I'm going to put that one on right here. I'll put that one right there. Because what the hell just...
All right, so that's nostalgic.avenue, at nostalgic.avenue, if you guys want to follow him. That's hilarious. I mean, between that and then between that and PSA grading the LeBron James rookie card still in the sleeve, there's just funny. That's funny. Listen, if I wasn't going to do this video on BGS, I probably would have just left that alone, right? Because I posted it on my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. I posted it on my Instagram in the stories. I just thought it was hilarious because this guy had waited 14 months, over a year, almost a year and a quarter, to get his cards back, and then he gets it, and the first one he opens up is upside down. I'm pretty sure he didn't have any more after that were upside down, because if he did, I'm pretty sure he would have posted about it. But anyway, that's kind of that. But so back to kind of what the intent of this video was for, is to kind of talk about that idea that BGS is going to take up to 3 to 5 years to get caught up. So BGS was at the recent Las Vegas, industry summit that was actually put on by Beckett, which is funny enough. The industry summit where Jeremy Murray, who's the president of Beckett, made some comments and made some remarks regarding their backlog and how backed up they are and what they're doing to get caught up, right? So the first big statement is here, right? And it says, if no more cards came in today to be graded, we have enough grading work for the next year, okay? So they got enough work for a year is what they're saying. That's pretty backlogged, I'd say, but, that's neither here nor there. The next statement that I wanted to talk about was, we shut down our services a month before the National to make up some ground. And we made up 2 or 3 months just by being shut down for that 1 month. Okay. So, they made the shutdown. We already know that. They shut down and they're being caught, and in that 1 month, they were able to catch up 2 or 3 months into this 1 year backlog that they had, or whatever it was at the time. It's 1 year now is what he's saying if they don't receive any more cards, but they're continuously receiving cards. I think it's like the highest level. They're charging out like $150 or something for a card. So we made up 2 or 3 months just by being down a month. I don't really know what to make of that. And then he said, it'd be crazy to say that this is great that we made up 2 or 3 months. We're still 16 months behind on some of our slow orders, and that's not what we want. Our customer service and sales guys are taking a beating. I don't doubt that. And we're trying to do everything we can to help customers out, especially in a market that's hot and people want to get their stuff sold. So we have to continue to do better. That's, hey, we suck and we're trying to do better. I guess respect from just at least admitting that piece of it, or at least communicating it openly, right? But the last piece here, grading. Here's one of the pieces that was really interesting. Grading is still going to be one of those processes that's tedious. It's a manual process. You can't just tell somebody to work more, work harder, over and over. They're already doing that. If I had to grade cards, I'd be angry, grouchy, and upset within 15 minutes. These guys are amazing at what they do. Now, that kind of goes to my point that I've been saying about, these big numbers that PSA has been putting out and stuff like that. I agree with this statement that the process of looking at a card and grading it and being meticulous and understanding like what's in here and all that stuff is a manual and arduous process and should be respected, and it should be, especially when you're paying for it, and especially when you're paying high dollar for it, and it should not be taken lightly. We as collectors are giving our cards to these companies and expecting them to be fair, objective, and accurate in their grades, and we can't expect them to do so if we're expecting them to crank them out quickly at the rate that PSA is cranking out cards right now, which I can only speculate because I don't know how many graders they actually have. We'll get to that in another video, but I agree with this. I think that this is important, that the collectors, it's important that we agree to this along with the card companies. And the card companies, I wish they would take a stand and say, hey guys, listen, we need to be accurate in the way that we grade cards, and we need to be accurate in the way that we do these things. So it's a manual process. It's going to take time. And either we slack on the quality to give you more output, or we just start cranking out cards like crazy. And then our practice of grading the card becomes irrelevant at some point, right? So while I do a lot of videos about how long it takes and things like that, I want you guys to understand that I am of the thought process that grading a card takes time. I feel like every card should take at least, I shouldn't spend more time pre-grading my card than it would take a professional to grade my card. And when I look at a card really hard and want to make sure that I'm sending off what I would consider to be a high grade card, it could take up to 5 minutes. of looking at a card under the microscope in different lighting, in different angles, you know. And so I would like for the grading company to take just as long if possible, if not more, and really be objective about it. So I like that BGS took this stand, right, and say this stance and saying, guys, what we do is a manual process. We cannot rush it. Now, that being said, I don't think it's a crutch for them to stand on when they talk about how they're a year and a half behind. Because that, from an operational standpoint, is their fault. They took on too much. They took on way too many cards, knowing that grading is a manual process. And because of that, we are now suffering because we have to wait these exacerbated lead times to get our stuff back. So that's my take on that. But I'm glad to see that a company, you know, which is to be considered like one of the more prominent companies in this space, stood up and said, hey guys, what we do is manual. Okay, there's not, you know, for all the AI and for all the, you know, stuff that we would like to be more integrated into the process, it's still a manual process. So kudos to BGS on that. However, they still screwed up because they just accepted way too many orders, and they're, you know, they're in the water. They're dead in the water. So another thing they said, there's constantly someone working in the office working on the backlog because we don't want your stuff in our building. It's better to get it back in your hands to be sold, traded, or whatever. Especially shops who have submitted things for their customers. They've got angry customers, which impacts us, and we don't want to do that. Which then impacts us, so we don't want to do that. Yeah. Okay, so fair enough. All right, I'm glad they're acknowledging that. Our plan is to open at least one more service in early October. Our next plan that we've put on the plate is January 1st. And we'd like to have some more options for people to submit stuff then. See, again, this is kind of where I think this is, I think this is where they're going wrong, where they're opening up levels when they're not ready to. PSA is doing it, BGS is doing it now, and I think they're putting the cart before the horse. I think they're not getting fully caught up operationally, and they're opening up more stuff, and that's unfortunate. So what's going to happen over the winter months? Is there going to be another COVID spike? Are they going to shut down again? We had a plan to bring graders to the card show that was held here just before the industry summit, but we had an outbreak in the office that shut down. Okay. We realized, okay, so this is where that 3 to 5 years thing came in. And I just wanted to get this statement correct. We want to get this fixed so that in 2, 3, 5 years, we can have our turnaround times back down and everyone getting their cards back as quickly as possible. That's what we're shooting for. So what that statement says to me is that it's kind of ambiguous, right? Because we really don't know what, you know, the statement's pretty broad, so that we can have our turnaround times back down and everyone getting their cards back as quickly as possible. That's not very direct and not very open, or that's not very clear as to what they're talking about there. And then this whole 2, 3, 5 years, we can have our turnaround times back down. I don't know how to interpret that. I don't think that it's going to take them that long, because I think that the card market overall is going to simmer down within the next maybe 18 months or so for the bulk of the market. And when I mean the bulk of the market, I mean like the lower level cards. I think people are no longer going to be sending in base cards to flip for a small profit. I think the card collecting industry is going to continue to be on a high, but I think it's going to be for the more coveted cards, not for this idea of like flipping and all that stuff. So I don't know. Are they going to take 2 years or 5 years? Who knows? But if they're at that 5-year mark where they're saying things are not going to go back to normal for another 5 years, well, then BGS is just not going to, they're not going to survive. I feel like they're not going to survive. And that's not good for them. So that's a question. Are they going to survive? Can they get past the 2-year mark and still be around? While a SGC and an HGA and some of these other up-and-coming companies continue to gain steam and market share because they're offering something that BGS, PSA simply cannot, which is a quick turnaround time and a good service. I don't know. I don't have any opinions on Beckett to begin with because I've never used them before. But just from a business standpoint and from an overall market standpoint, I don't think that they can. I don't think they can weather that storm. I just don't. Nobody's buying Beckett pricing guides anymore, right? They're just not. Anyway, that's my thoughts. You guys wanted BGS content? There you go. Anyway, tell me what you guys think. Are you submitting with BGS currently? If you are, what's your criteria? Because if you're submitting to BGS and paying the high price and waiting this long, then you might as well submit to PSA. I mean, it goes for more money. The cards ultimately bring more money in the open market. So why would you pick BGS over PSA? Do you just simply not like PSA that much? I don't know. But if you're submitting with BGS and you currently have submissions with BGS, what is the longest wait time that you currently have open? This guy said 14 months. That's insane. Nobody should wait 14 months for any. You can make a baby in less time than that, which is insane. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Love you guys. Peace.